Hello and welcome to episode 267 of the Epic Film Challenge 2001 movies you must see before you die, and a yawn from Connie, as we're about to talk about a film from the 1940s, 1940 to be precise, The Philadelphia Story. I wasn't sure if this was going to be like a pure screwball comedy or not, and it kind of feels like it is, and I think it kind of is, but the previous one that I talked about in the series was Bringing Up Baby, also with Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn, which I loved, but it was like that kind of
I'm thinking
rapid...
about Audrey Hepburn.
No, Katharine Hepburn.
I don't know who she is.
Two famous Hepburns. So with Bringing Up Baby, I loved that film. It was so funny, but like the screwball comedy style of rapid dialogue and just motor mouth delivery was just exhausting in Bringing Up Baby. Like after 2 hours of it, I'm like, okay. So I was glad that with this one, it doesn't go that far, and I don't know, there's a bit more time for it to breathe, and then the story gets to kind of move along. I don't know. I just felt like I think I'd want to watch Bringing Up Baby more. But I thought this one was better. It was a better film, I think, for having the not so much of the kind of dialogue. But this one has that. It is the same kind of style, and it was based on a play in which Katharine Hepburn starred as the main character, I suppose you could say. And so I think she was given the rights to make the movie, and obviously would then star in the movie. And there was a couple of different choices for the lead actors, but they ended up with Cary Grant and Jimmy/James Stewart. Connie doesn't like it when I say Jimmy Stewart for some reason.
It doesn't ring well.
It doesn't ring.
James Stewart.
No, that doesn't ring well with me.
You can call him Jimmy by first name, but don't put them together.
Don't put them together. Well, okay. So I don't know the history of these actors all that well. I've seen them all in other films before. They're very much, three of the biggest names in kind of Hollywood history circa that period, I think. But I don't know how big of a star either of the three of them were at that point in time when they made the Philadelphia Story. But for me, in my perspective, just seeing those three like icons together in a scene was like something out of an Avengers film. I was telling you, it was just like crazy that these three amazing actors and kind of, again, like film icons were together in this film, and pretty much the three lead characters. The story, the Philadelphia Story, follows Tracy Lord. Is it Lord or Lords? Lord. Tracy, well, we'll just call her Tracy, played by Katharine Hepburn. She's this wealthy young woman. She's part of a very wealthy family. At the very beginning of the film, she's dumping Cary Grant, who is her husband, and he goes off, and then 2 years later, she's marrying someone else. She's kind of almost sticking it to him and getting married to someone else who's another kind of, George, yes. And he's kind of, I don't know what you'd call George, but he doesn't seem like the perfect fit for her, basically. But it would be a good move publicly, if that makes sense. Like, it would seem like a good pairing to kind of show off around town kind of thing, even though the family has been notorious for not allowing the press to come and onto the estate and all that kind of stuff. So in enters James Stewart, his character, he's a reporter, and with him his assistant, or his partner, I guess you could say, who's a photographer. She and him have been tasked to go to the wedding to report on this big society wedding, but they won't let anyone come. It's a kind of convoluted plot when I start to break it down and really think about it, especially when Cary Grant's character, who is the ex-husband of Tracy, is orchestrating this secret kind of undercover reporting on the wedding. And so all these things get mixed up, and then suddenly Tracy, Katharine Hepburn, and her family know that these people aren't really who they say they are. They're actually reporting on the wedding. They decide to let them report on the wedding. There's all these kind of crossed wires and stuff, and really it's kind of, I don't know, I wasn't sure what to expect from this, because the front cover of the Blu-ray is like Katharine Hepburn in the back, James Stewart, Cary Grant, like looking at each other. So I thought it was going to be like a love triangle film, and it kind of is, kind of isn't.
Well, that's what you think it
and
is
there's
until the end.
And there's a twist at the end, which I thought was... We won't talk about the twist, but I really liked the twist at the end. I thought that kind of...
It was unexpected. I didn't
it was unexpected, yeah. But so I think that
it's like not something that they would even like nowadays. It's like in a romantic comedy like that, you don't expect that.
No, yeah, but
and back then specifically.
But it's an ending and a resolution, I think, really works when you think about the rest of the film. I don't know, it just feels like all the pieces were...
As long as he turns out to be a good guy in the end, then it doesn't matter.
It felt like all the pieces were in place for that ending to happen, but I just didn't see it coming, and so I really liked that. I thought it was really good. James Stewart's great in the film. He won Best Actor at the Oscars for this film, which he apparently did not agree with himself. He thought someone else should have won it who was in the running. I forget who it was now. But he did end up winning the Oscar for this one.
Man.
Yeah, and there's some good stuff in this with James Stewart, particularly the scenes in which he's drunk.
And that is my absolute favorite scene of the whole movie.
Yeah, it's a great scene, but like the first time you see him at this party, he kind of walks around the corner, and he's got this little grin on his face. And I just remember thinking, is he drunk? And then like we just see he's like reaching for a glass, he doesn't quite grab it. He's a very subtle drunk kind of.
The guy walks away with it. And
Yeah.
it's like trying to high five someone and left him hanging.
And there's a lot of
Same
those.
feeling.
There's a lot of those like physical moments of comedy throughout the film, just little gestures that you might even miss out on if you're not paying full attention. There's just a lot of attention to detail in those little physical comedic parts of the film. There's one part where James Stewart walks into this room and there's this like big table of all these wedding gifts, and he's kind of just looking through them, and then suddenly the camera pulls back and you see this butler kind of just looking at him very like, you know, accusingly, and he's just like opens up his jacket like, I'm not taking anything. But yeah, the drunk scene when he comes to the home of Cary Grant, and he is he's all over the place, he's got champagne with him, he's hiccuping, and I read later, and we went back and watched the scene again, that the hiccups were improvised by Jimmy Stewart. And so you can see Cary Grant kind of get thrown by it during the scene, and he's like,
It's so funny.
and he's like, excuse me, and he's like, and they just keep going, and apparently that was done in one take. They didn't reshoot the scene or anything, and got what they needed, and it adds a kind of spontaneity and naturalism, but also the way that
It's funny how he said excuse me when he was the one hiccuping, like.
well, yeah, I guess it's kind of a play on excuse me, you know, but I like how, knowing that fact now, that he was throwing the hiccups in, you know, as an improvised bit, and then he's kind of like looking at him over the glass with this kind of like mischievous kind
It's
of.
almost like he wants him to start laughing.
Yeah.
He's testing him, like, can you handle this? No, that was my favorite scene.
Yeah, it was a brilliant scene.
I mean, we watched it again, and it was just as enjoyable. More actually, knowing that.
Sure, yeah.
You can tell that Cary is kind of sat there like.
Yeah, there's a bit
trying to keep it together.
Yeah.
Because when he hiccuped and he said, excuse me, and I was like, and then he looks down at the table and you can tell that he's smiling.
Yeah.
And then he brings it together and they keep doing the scene. And it's just the way that he looks at him is kind of like, oh, you poor man, you know, that kind of way. That's what I felt like it was a condescending look.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was almost like, now that you're looking at it afterwards, you're thinking, maybe he's looking at him like, are we really going through with this? Is this what we're doing? Yeah, we're doing the whole scene. Okay.
Yeah. It's a really great bit between two great actors. The rest of the cast is really good. I really like the young actress who played Tracy's young sister, Dina. They call her Dina and also... No, Diana and Dinah, I think. I was like, what's her name? Make up your mind. But she... The best part for her is when the family have decided, okay, we're going to let these reporters report on the wedding, but we won't let them know that we know that, and we're going to pretend that we're really prim and proper. And so the young girl comes in and she's just like prancing around and stuff, and she plays this song on the piano.
She's wearing ballet shoes too.
Yeah, and talking in French and just being all like, you know,
I don't
high
think
society.
that was proper French, actually. There was a lot of English words in there. I was thinking, is that real?
I couldn't even
and the
tell.
song too, she was so over the top.
And the way she
was
leaves
great.
the room like that, it's just brilliant. It's a really funny film. There's just lots of little like dialogue twisters as well, and especially when they're drunk in kind of the end of the second act of the film. Katharine Hepburn. Okay, what do you think of Cary Grant, first of all? Because I don't think you've really seen him in anything.
He was in the shadows for me, except for that scene.
Yeah,
I didn't really care about him. I just knew that in the beginning it was clear that he beat her, and so I decided not to like him. And so throughout the whole movie, I just didn't like him. So the whole time I was thinking, why is he there?
That's a really interesting point. Yeah, it's I have to watch this film in the era that it was made, because in the very beginning of the film, when Tracy splits up with him, he just grabs her by the face and shoves her through the door. And it's just
Yeah,
meant...
and the little sister made it clear that he was sucking her or whatever.
Yeah, she was getting... Is he going to suck her? Like, it's getting
Like, it's okay. It's
Right.
not. And the way they were talking to her as well, like she was just some little fucking Cinderella. And it's really, like... We got it good now compared to then, that's for sure. And I just wanted to go into the movie and just, like, kick him in the balls. Her dad, because her dad was a dick.
Oh,
and then
yeah,
all of a
yeah,
sudden, fuck you. So yeah, no, I didn't like him. But it seemed like James Stewart's character, Connor, was a good guy. He seemed like a guy who would never beat her. But then again, he probably did anyway.
Well...
Because it was the 40s, wasn't it? It was normal.
Right, well, yeah, see, again...
And women was just a big little mice in the corner and just, oh, yes. And she'd even called him, her ex-husband, Cary, her master.
Right, no, the way she's saying that is very sardonically. It's very kind of... I mean, there's truth to that in the way that she says it. And there's a lot of complicated ideas in this film when it comes to the relations between...
Just what happens anyway. It's just not okay.
No, but when he shoves her down at the beginning of the film, it's meant to be you can say this makes it even worse. It's meant to be like a slapstick comedy kind of bit. I don't think it's meant to be like a...
No,
this isn't a film that's...
I reacted a little to that. That's fine. That just made it clear what kind of relationship it was and why it ended.
Yeah.
But when the little sister made it even more clear that he used to beat her, that was it. Why would I like a character like that? So I didn't like him. The only scene I liked was when the hiccup scene and everything like that. Yeah. That was funny.
But yeah, looking at it now, there it is complicated when you look at that, and there's more of that throughout the whole film, I think.
Yeah.
But I think that the way that they... I
think George would have done the same, to be honest.
But
it seemed like he didn't really care about her.
Oh yeah, the person she was supposed to marry, yeah, definitely. It felt like it was... He didn't...
seemed like the dad did it too, to be honest.
Yeah, but you say that, women are like, oh, they should be like that, but I think that Tracy's character is a very strong-willed character. That's kind of the whole...
She left him, so that is a strong-willed character. Getting divorced back then was a major no-no.
I suppose so, yeah. I mean, you surprised her being such a rich, part of a rich family. I think they talk about them being one of the oldest families in Philadelphia. There's a lot of prestige to that family, and so a divorce wouldn't look very good, and yet, she does it anyway. But... yeah, she's a very tempestuous character, and that makes for some really fun interplay with all the characters that she interacts with. What do you think of Katharine Hepburn in the film, her performance?
Oh, she's good.
I think she's great. There's a few scenes where she's really upset.
Annoying, but...
Yeah, she's definitely annoying at times, but there's a few scenes where she's like in tears, and she's like... It was very believable when someone's like not acting through the tears, but they're kind of, I don't know. She's in an argument with someone, and the tears just start coming, even though she's not...
When?
A few times. There's at least 2 or 3 scenes in the film.
I didn't see any tears.
You didn't see any tears.
Wearing my glasses.
You weren't wearing your glasses. No, it's interesting. No, because there are many films from this period that I have seen in which characters are crying and you don't see tears coming, But I could see them dropping out of their face.
Pretty much every movie from this era is very overacted because they had to overact. It's more like theater than film, and so they have to overact.
A little bit. I mean, in the silent era, definitely. But yeah, so... Well, I just said it. There's a few films from this era, the 30s and 40s, where someone's crying and you can tell it's very theatrical crying. With her, the tears are rolling and she's like, it's that kind of crying when you're trying not to cry and the tears are coming anyway.
I didn't notice it.
I did, and I was very impressed by it. And I thought there's a lot of...
average.
No, I thought she was great. I really
James
thought
Stewart
that she was
stole
great
the show. Just because he's funny, but then again, I don't think that was his greatest performance either.
No, that definitely not.
He was average as well.
I mean,
except for the hiccup scene.
he actually said there's a famous film he did the year before this, which is also in the book, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which he apparently gave a great performance in, and he said he thinks he won the Oscar for the Philadelphia Story as kind of like an apology for. Or at least like, oh, this is what we should have given you a year ago. Just knocked a bottle of water off the table. So it's fine.
Close, right?
It's closed, yes. So it'll be interesting to see Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. But yeah, I agree. It's not his best performance, but he was very good. And overall...
I think maybe the little girl was the best performer.
She was very good. I liked her.
She was funny.
Yeah, very funny.
And yeah, she was funny. That's it.
Yeah. So...
I think maybe it was just exaggeration of it. I felt like it was a theater piece.
Well, it is based on the... it felt like that. It did feel like an adaptation from the stage. It definitely had that feel to it.
And that's how I felt like a lot of it was overdone as well.
Okay.
And maybe why I couldn't get into it other when there were funny bits.
Okay, so it was the humor of it that was the most appealing.
Yeah.
I think I'd say the same.
Nothing else really got me. I was more like the accent when they were... trying to be all over the top.
Well, that was just funny. I like that.
It was funny because it reminded me of Phoebe in Friends when she's trying to impress her boyfriend's parents.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I wanted to get to know Phoebe, not Phoebe. And that's exactly the way she was.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm probably going to forget this movie in a couple of months. Unfortunately, I'll remember the hiccup scene and then I'll remember bits of it, but to me it was unfortunately very forgettable.
Is it a film you should see before you die?
No.
No, I didn't think it would be.
No. There's so many other great movies out there, but to me you're saying, oh, it's like, an Avengers movie, 3 stars, and I'm thinking like, I don't even know who they are. I don't really, and you said Hepburn, I'm like, ooh. No, it's Audrey Hepburn. Never heard of him.
Yeah, but that's just my perspective on it.
But I love James Stewart. He's great. But this wasn't his greatest performance either. So...
yeah, honestly, I was surprised...
I almost shouldn't be in this review.
That's true, but I think it's great to have another perspective in this. And I remember when I started this series 7 years ago... it was almost exactly 7 years ago, and you said you wanted to join me. And I was like, well, you're not going to join me on everything. And you're like, well, I could try. And obviously, there was no way you were going to join me on everything. But anytime I can get you to join in on any of them is a win for me, whether it's a film that you'll like or not, compared to what my tastes are. Do I think it's a film you see before you die? Yes, I think it's a great film. It's not one I would watch over and over again. It's not a film I'd call a favorite, but I did enjoy it a lot, and I think that it's got a lot of strengths to it. And just seeing those 3 actors together to me was like... I don't know, just really cool.
It probably would have been different for me if I had any connection with the other 2.
Maybe, but then I don't have much connection with Hepburn. I've only seen her in a couple of films, but it's just the knowledge that these 3... I don't know, there's something about that. There's one moment where they're all in the same frame and it was just really exciting, but I enjoyed the film regardless anyway, and by the last 10, 20 minutes, I was really invested on what was going to happen based on the very eventful night before. And I really liked the drunk scene between James Stewart and Katharine Hepburn. It was really like the way it starts out, they're really into each other, and then they're just they hate each other, and then they're back together again. It doesn't really make much sense, but it's really there's a lot of charisma from both sides, and it just it was cool.
The twist was interesting, though.
The twist at the end I really liked because I didn't see it coming, but again, like I said...
But I'm not happy with the twist.
That's fine.
But I liked that there was a twist.
Yeah.
I liked that I was thrown back. I was like, oh, okay. That's something I've never seen in a movie from that era. And
yeah.
Very rarely before even the 70s, I guess. There weren't a lot of twists like that in romantic comedies. So I appreciated the twist, but I didn't like the outcome. I thought it was stupid.
Perhaps, yeah. No. I mean, maybe it isn't and the
that's just
ideal.
Because of my opinion of what happens.
Oh, sure, yeah. Of course, that makes sense. If you've seen the film, you probably understand what Connie means. But yeah, no, I can see that. But I think just in general, you think is that relationship really going to work out? And maybe it would. Maybe those are the 2 people who understand each other.
Stupid either way.
Maybe those 2 people understand each other more than they would like to admit, and maybe it could work, maybe it doesn't, and that's part of the whole irony of the whole thing. The film is a very, I don't know, there's a lot of layers to it, I think,
the better
that I couldn't get
ending
into.
Would be her ending up with none of them.
I would
that
agree.
would have been the realistic ending for me.
Perhaps,
but because of society and
I don't know. It was fun and uplifting, and maybe maybe it's a bit of a fake out ending, but I enjoyed it.
I would drag her to the side and say, "Are you looking at what you're doing, you stupid bitch?" And then I'd slap her in the face and I'd say, "Wake up."
And then the young sister will go, she just sucked her.
Yeah. And I'll be like, you want me to suck you too? Yeah. Put your fucking shoes and that's the way.
Okay, so that was our thoughts on the Philadelphia Story. I like getting you to watch these films, even if I know the answer is probably going to be no from you. It's a different flavor. So
yeah,
anyway.
well, I mean, I had a couple of no's before as well. So
yeah, so that's it. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.